me! Whew. Alright. Oh, now that's gonna go. Way to find out. I am a firm believer in letting people enjoy their games. If it's something I'm not rocking with or at least vibing with, by all means, go on and indulge. As long as it's not affecting my mental space or Diablo IV playing time, then we good. That being said, we live in a society. And since we live in that said society, people don't quite believe in the first sentence I said when this video started. So we're here, complaining about games, services, other people complaining, people not complaining for the desired effect just to hear ourselves complaining. I mean, it's not Mariah Mills levels of taking it to hear ourselves talk, right? But it is in the same family tree at least. And it just so happens that there's multiple examples of this lately that we can look at. Now, granted, sometimes complaining can be a good thing, but in those cases where the complaints are valid, then I think I would offer the proper word would be criticism, and not that other C word that I've already said 10 or 11 times, but who's counting? It's semantics, right? I could actually be complaining about having to use this pop filter too, because I tried to get like super intimate with it, but then all of my peas started popping, and I was like, pop. Look, I'll be honest, I'm more annoyed by the state of everyone incorrectly using their voices than anything. And that's something I can prove if need be, but my point isn't exactly to tell people to stop complaining, but more so to focus on the right things to complain about. Complaining about Zion's off-court affairs, like with the Mariah situation, right? Weird. You know what I mean? But complaining about him being healthy in the playoffs, but saying he's waiting to feel like himself again as his team loses, the valid complaint. One that could get him traded, but this isn't about mans. We talking video games, and specifically, there's 3 video games that have people up in arms right now for various reasons. So let's start with the fun stuff. Street Fighter 6. Been a joy to play, watch, learn, etc. for me. The new game under the guise of old familiarity, and honestly, that's kind of been the whole thing with Street Fighter to begin with. There's a couple of game mechanics that you have to learn to be effective. Mainly the drive impact attack, which is like a crush and blow, kind of like a focus attack from Street Fighter 4. And then the drive parry, which is not unlike the parry system from Street Fighter 3, but way more leniency. These aren't one-of-one duplications either, and that's thanks to the other systems in the game. It's familiar enough to make any match look flashy, but different enough to realize that relying on any of it too much is a death sentence. It makes for some unpredictable matches on all levels, and it's pretty fun to watch. Because of that, it makes sense to me that Capcom, the creators of the game, lowered the entry level for people to play it by offering a different control scheme for other fighting game fans to come in, and they called it Modern Controls. Oh yes. Modern Controls. And because of that, immediately there's diehard fans that's upset about the game being bastardized because I guess? I mean, never mind the fact that there's more people playing it right now than ever, and that the netcode online has been wonderful, spanning across multiple game systems, and that the character roster has no real weak points well after a month of its release, but that the retention level of the game has been magnificently high on all systems. Instead, people are focusing on the lowered entry level. And I see both sides of the argument, but at the end of the day, I want people playing the game. Like that's my focus. I want people to play the game. So as long as the population, the gamers are still high, and I'm still getting matches every 8 to 12 seconds in ranked, then by all means, bring on more modern players for me to dunk on. I don't care. But there's also the section of high level players that's complaining about things that make the game unpredictable, like the throw loops, which you can take out of, but whatever. Perfect parries, which rewards people for hard reads. So okay, but all of that's moot to me, and I feel like if you want to play a game without those mechanics, Street Fighter 5 is right there. It's like right there, bro. Go back to 5. It's hard for me to take these complaints seriously when there are counter arguments for almost everything presented. Now, that is completely different from, let's say, the second game on this list, like Destiny 2 situation, right? Where almost every argument against the game is starting to make more and more sense. You guys know I love this game, but I haven't played it for more than 30 minutes in the last 2 to 3 weeks, maybe pushing a month now. And it's in the middle of a season that's supposed to enhance the gravity of the end game that's coming with the next year in the final shape. New weapons, new activities, new aspects to tweak with our loadouts. All of these should be good things for D2 players, but instead most of us have been pulled away by other games and other live service games that feel more rewarding, like Diablo 4, because Diablo 4 works. Look, man, I'm not trying to give a platform to the mess that Destiny 2 is eerily shaping into, haha, bars. But when complaints start making more sense than you intend, then we've got to have a serious conversation about what in the world's happening at Bungie. Microtransaction videos are going viral from ass across, talking about how crazy it is. Okay, the density of what's required for a new player to jump into the game at this point is unrecognizable though. I think that's That's a fair assessment. Matter of fact, example for you. I had a friend buy a PS5 recently. What up, gut? And he asked me what he needed to play all of the content in Destiny 2 at this moment. He wanted to have everything, LJ. What do I need? Gut's voice is way deeper, so it's more like, if you want to remember. I'm thinking, no problem. I get ready to respond to the text, slight problem. I don't really know what all he needed, so I had to Google it. Then I had to check the PlayStation Store to make sure that the bundle I saw was offered on his system. Then I had to double check if he needed the Lightfall DLC independently from the previous 2 checks. And then after that, I still had to call another friend to make sure that I didn't tell him the wrong things to buy. And after all of that, he still couldn't do the new dungeon that dropped because he didn't have a dungeon key, which costs 20 bucks. I don't think that he's touched the game since. And I'm not saying the seasonal model's trash. Okay, I'm saying the season model is trash, like for sure. And so is almost everybody else that plays this game. It's not even because of just one thing or one individual issue with this either. It's just, it doesn't help when you charge for almost every element of the game independently to a degree. It's really easy to cause confusion. And then even you have to sort through all of that confusion and then your game doesn't work. So server issues, random disconnects, error codes, they all plague the game as well. And we haven't even discussed how elitist the PvP side of this game is and how cheaters still run crazy in the competitive game modes like Trials of Osiris. It is very hard to be a casual fan or even be an above average casual fan of this game. And the complaints here, unfortunately, they're valid. And then, hell, we have the third game, which is Diablo 4. Which has to deal with complaints in a completely different stratosphere. Well, outside of their recent Season 1 drop. The action RPG looter is arguably one of the best games of the year, and it had one of the best launches of the year, and it has one of the best in-game grinds of the year with its nightmare tiers and open world shenanigans that you're able to partake in with up to 3 other people. Or if it's like a world event, you can have many more people. And sure, there's people complaining about that DLC model that requires you to play with a fresh character for each season, although that's always been the case with Diablo 3, but whatever. Even that, you know what, now while we're here, even that part, by the way, has people complaining about the wrong thing. I don't think trying to change the seasonal model that the fans of previous games enjoyed is the way to go about it, but instead, I think the proper question is to ask why they're tying the story progression to it, because that's the thing that made a lot of people kind of flip out. But that's not the big issue that Diablo 4 has to deal with. If Diablo 4 only had to deal with game issues, I think they would be happy. But the problem is that Diablo 4 is ran by Activision, who's in the middle of a huge company shift away from recent toxic shenanigans. I think that's the best way to call it. We'll just call it shenanigans. And if you're not sure what I'm talking about, a quick Google search will do you. Scores of people online that refuse to support anything that Activision does because in their eyes, they haven't done enough to make up for their mistakes. And by they, I mean Activision's current CEO, Bobby Kotick, because it happened under his watch. And that's probably one of the main forces that's driving them being open to being acquired by Microsoft, which is a whole different thing that people are complaining about. And by people in that sentence, I just mean Sony. Just Sony. No one else cares. Just Sony. Everyone else is like, whoa, it's just Sony. I just feel there's a slippery slope when you start to demonstrate online to the degree that people are about Activision, because it feels like a performance piece as opposed to genuine criticism that could be levied here. There's so many other things that energy can go towards, and trying to actively hurt Kotick's pockets only hurts the passionate game designers that are working their dream job at the lower levels of the company. You know, the people who actually created the game and the patch fixes to make the said game that you enjoy run smooth. It's deeper than just complaining online for the sake of complaining online. There's a difference that you can honestly make if you focus that power for good, as opposed to just trying to sound good without research. I just hope that at some point people realize that, and we all take the extra step to be more informed before doing all of this. And if they don't, then hey, I'll just make another video to complain in like 6 months. No big deal. That should be enough time for the Zion Williamson stuff to die down. I think it'd be safe outside by then.
Maybe one day you gonna understand. If I say that you family, you really fam. If I say I don't care, I don't give a damn. If I give you my word, and that's where I stand. If I take off on beats in this Peter Pan, spread my music to get to the jelly end. Not to mention I float and I never land. Plus I spin over.